So, despite the name of today's stream, we're going to be doing other things besides Project 2025, but I let me put it this way. I was exercising earlier today, okay? And while I was exercising, I was like, hey, that Tim Walz guy he did a speech the other day for a bunch of union guys. Um I guess I'll listen to that because I'm in 2.5 miles into my elliptical run, and I need something to get me through the rest of it. So I put on his speech, and I can't remember the last time a politician made me go like, "Fuck yeah," you know? Like, I can't remember that. And I know that Tim Walz is a politician. I know that politicians are not to be trusted. Don't put them on pedestals, etc., etc., etc. But I think that this guy is basically saying most of the things that shouldn't be controversial, but our bar has been lowered to such a degree that hearing this guy talk and listing out policies that he wants to pursue, hearing him actually relate from a position of not being like the wealthiest man in politics, from being like completely no investments whatsoever, uh, he's relatable. He's Mr. Midwest, yeah. I get the feeling. I'm glad you guys understand. Because he's killing it. And I know I didn't see it yesterday, Amber Brains, I'm sorry. But I saw it today. And I just want to throw this idea out there. If we get Kamala Harris elected, and then we get her reelected, Tim Walz is only going to be 68 years old by the end of that second term. Which is quite a bit younger than anyone else who is in the race up to this point. And honestly, 68 isn't a terrible age. You're not that old at 68. Like, you're old, but you're not that old. I'm just throwing out the idea that if all of this is going well, and this guy keeps talking the talk and walking the walk, I could see him being an incredible president. I can see him working with the UAW extraordinarily well. I can see him supporting the UAW as it builds its bridges with other unions to get to the point where perhaps in the future we could have a general strike. Doing the actual bridge building and such. I can see him supporting that. This is a guy who's been out there walking the picket lines. He's visited striking workers and supported them in Minnesota. That is not a thing he's new to. And yeah, in 16 years, Walz will still be younger than Trump is right now. Yeah, just to put it in perspective, if Kamala Harris served 2 terms and then Walz served 2 terms, he would still be younger than both presidential candidates that started out this election cycle. Did I see the UAW sued Musk and Trump today? Yeah, we talked about that yesterday. They announced they filed charges with the National Labor Relations Board, and they're gonna see. We'll see where it goes. The NLRB has to do an investigation that'll take like maybe 2 months. And then they'll hand down kind of their decision. We'll see what happens. Yeah, okay, here's how it's gonna go. First we get Kamala, then we get Tim Walz, then we get Sean Fain. Boom. That's our pathway to radicalizing America, okay? If you've ever been wondering, like, oh man, what could electoral politics do for me? We could do that. That is on the table. And I do want to say, I know that Tim Walz has said he doesn't want to be president. I just think that means we have to make him president more, okay? Lawsuit will take 2 months, October surprise. No, to put this in perspective, I think there was an employee complaint against Tesla in 2018 for an employee who was fired for attempting to unionize one of Musk's workplaces, and he filed a complaint, and that took until 2023 to be adjudicated through the system. So also, I have to be completely honest with you. Trump hasn't still hasn't paid his contractors, still hasn't paid his venues. No one cares. No, frankly, unfortunately, we live in a country that is not woken up to this, predator handshake type of class consciousness. At least not yet. So frankly, I think even if they were to uncover that's a pretty good idea that there was some labor violation, it's not going to sink them. And if they do get fined for it, it's going to be a pittance that won't matter to their pocketbook at the end of the day. But what it will do is that there will be workplace reforms that are required to take place within Tesla or SpaceX or some one of these companies, or the Trump organization. They will be required to post signs to allow employees to unionize, and I think that's a lovely, wonderful thing that is worth fighting for. And yes, they haven't woken up yet. Then we will let the animals take over America, the metal animals. Have I read the GOP's platform for the election cycle? We're going to be going over Project 2025, so we're going to be getting there, okay? All right. But first, let's go over this Tim Walz union speech, huh? Get your water, get your snacks. And remember to comment, and subscribe. Hit the like button on the Twitch stream. Or the follow button on the Twitch stream. Hit the like button on the YouTube stream. Hit the subscribe button if you haven't yet. You fool. You know who you are. I didn't know Sean Fain and heard it as John Fain. Was confused when the only real result was an entry in the villains wiki. Yeah, no, it's Sean Fain. Here we go.
Action underway by the Workers' Union president.
No pretense. He's as comfortable in a camo hat and a t-shirt as he is in a suit and tie. He's as comfortable at the county fair as he is in a room full of politicians. He is someone who lives his values every single day. And as an elected official, he has turned those values into policy and progress. Whether it's banning private prisons to keep Minnesota communities safe.
Hell yeah.
Expanding paid.
Yeah, he's done a lot of good work in Minnesota, and I think this speech really encapsulates his approach to governance in a way that I find extremely accessible and extremely appealing.
Family leave for Minnesota families, or guaranteeing free school meals to every Minnesota student. And he does it all with such humility, generosity, and good humor. He truly is a stand-up guy, absolute salt of the earth. And come next January, he will bring his decency and common sense to the White House, isn't he, Absme?
Yeah,
he will do that.
It's somewhat telling. It's somewhat telling, right? This guy's yeah, he's basically the bee's knees. And the best attack that Matt Walsh could come up with against Tim Walz was that, hey, in his interview, his wife said that she loved the smell of burning tires during BLM. And then we like he played the clip and she didn't even say anything remotely like that.
The Mean Green Machine. Get
That's
on
the best
your
they
feet
got.
and make some noise for the governor of Minnesota and the next vice president of the United States, Tim Walz.
Damn, this guy is hyped. Oh God, oh God. Nope, you're not doing this to me.
Wow.
There we go.
Well,
Walz got the balls. True.
hello, Los Angeles.
You know, there's something really charming about the way he tries to suppress, like he tries to suppress a smile, but utterly fails at it. You know, like he's like you can tell he's very, like, it just shines through. He can't help it.
Wow. Well, sisters and brothers, and ask me, first and foremost, to each and every one of you, thank you for the privilege of being able to stand with you, because I know that Ask Me stands with the American workers. Ask Me stands for all that's right. Let me acknowledge a few friends and the fighters who are here today with us. It goes without saying, thank you to my friend and your president, Lee Saunders.
Yeah,
we were just talking earlier, we've done a few door knocks, we've done a few phone banks, we've done a few rallies, and we've worked together on a few laws to improve people's lives. I said, my friend, the important thing about this guy is, this guy's the friend to every American worker. So thank you, Mr. President. Madam Secretary Treasurer, thank you. Thank you for your leadership. The leadership team of Ask Me is there when we need them, always when they need them, making sure we not just win elections, but we understand you don't just win elections to bank political capital to win another election. You take that political capital and you burn it as fast as you can to improve people's lives, and that's what the leadership here does.
Like, this is the thing right here. Right here in his speech was where I was like, oh, this guy's literally a different breed. Like, he's a different kind of politician entirely. You know, like, I've never heard any politician, maybe outside of Bernie Sanders, say something along these lines. Because most politicians in Washington, they hoard that political capital in order to save their asses. You know, they build it up in order to, like, call in favors to win their elections. Tim Walz is out here being like, nah, you win your elections by burning the political capital and legislating. You actually pass laws. You do things to help people, and then they like you and keep you in office. You know, like, this shouldn't be a radical statement to make as a politician, and yet here he is making it, and it stands in such stark contrast to everyone else in Washington, D.C. It is one of the famous sayings Nancy Pelosi, I think it was Nancy Pelosi, made was like, oh, the Democrats need to keep their powder dry. And yet they would never do anything with that dried powder. You know, like, that's kind of what was really mind-boggling about this speech for me. I was like, okay, we're dealing with someone else. We're dealing with, like, a different, entirely different kind of politician. And that's why I started this out by saying, I watched this and I think this guy could be a president. I didn't really think that until I saw him taking to this vice presidential position like a duck to water. He's very good. He's very, very good at this.
To every delegate in this room, representing 1.4 million Ask Me members, thank you. Thank you for what you do. And as a dues-paying member of my teachers union for years, let me just say thank you again for having a fellow union member here. Vice President and I are just so grateful for the support you've given us. I'm proud to be on this ticking, working with Vice President Harris, who we all know we want to call the next President of the United States. Here's a little fact that they just told me. By the way, my week has been very interesting since last Tuesday, as you might guess. But here's a fact they shared with me as I came here to make this opportunity to say thank you. I happen to be the first union member on a presidential ticket since Ronald Reagan.
And I think some people were reacting to this being like, well, Donald Trump was technically in the SAG-AFTRA, so guess it's not technically accurate. But you know what? He's a union man. He's a union man in a way that Donald Trump has never been a union man. You know? Do you guys understand the distinction? I hope so.
But rest assured, I won't lose my way.
Yeah, see, like it's good of him to invoke Reagan, because again, keep in mind what the electoral map looked like when Reagan won, okay? It's good to invoke Reagan, but then it's also good to underline in a relatively indirect way that, you know, Reagan didn't really deliver on his promises to unions.
Probably should be a few more union members in elected office, President Saunders. We might want to work at that. I think I'm looking at some. So you heard the story. You knew Vice President Harris grew up in a middle-class family, picked up shifts at that McDonald's as a student. I keep asking this to make a contrast here. Can you simply picture Donald Trump working at a McDonald's trying to make a McFlurry or something? It's, oh, yeah, he knows us.
You know, and like, this is one of the things, right? Like, sometimes, like, governors in Minnesota will, like, go to the state fair and, like, work at, like, one of the booths. You know, like, they'll make some cookies at Sweet Martha's cookie stand or something. And, like, it's really wholesome. You can see this guy, like, putting on, like, an apron and making some cookies at a state fair. You can't really see Donald Trump doing that, because that would require dirtying his hands.
He couldn't run that damn McFlurry machine if it cost him anything. So, but Vice President Harris took that work ethic, goes to work every single day to make sure families don't just get by, but they get ahead. She stood on the side of the American workers, and she stood up to the billionaires and fought corporate greed. She led this administration's work to eliminate the barriers to organizing. And let's not forget, she cast the tie-breaking vote on the American Rescue Plan to keep public service workers on the job during the pandemic. Just to be clear, the Vice President and I, we know exactly who built this country. It was nurses, it was teachers, and it was state and local government employees that built this nation. People in this room built the middle class. And it's not just a saying, it's a fact. When unions are strong, America's strong. Vice President Harris and I have both had the privilege of joining workers on the picket line. And it's why, as governor, I signed one of the biggest packages of pro-worker policies in history into law. In Minnesota, we made it easier for workers to form unions. We strengthened workers' protections. And yes, we banned those damn captive audience meetings for good in Minnesota.
Now, if you don't know what he's talking about by that, basically, if you are in a state where it is legal to do one of these captive audience meetings, your boss can say, hey, you need to go to this meeting that is about politics or discouraging unionizing. And there's nothing you can do about it, because if you don't go, they can fire you. In Minnesota, Tim Walz made that illegal. They cannot force you to do that. And I want you all to understand something, if you've never experienced one of those. People hate them. People hate them with a burning passion. Okay? And it is really smart, because when you're talking in abstracts, like, oh, we strengthened worker protections, that doesn't really translate to much from someone who's not deeply involved in the political process. But when you tell them, yeah, we banned those meetings that you hate, where your workplace tries to make you do something you don't want to do, that translates into something. That, like, makes that entire struggle for worker rights mean something. And so, like, I just want to say, like, not only do I like the things he's saying in this speech, his rhetoric, the rhetorical skills on display in this are impeccable. Impeccable. He's reaching people. And he's doing it with a relatable smile, and he's doing it in a way that makes it look easy. And if it were easy, more politicians would do it.
Last time I said that at a union meeting, they sued me over it. It was the best thing to get sued over I ever said. We're going to continue to ban those meetings. But we did more than that for families and ask me workers that are there every single day. We did things to improve people's lives in a real fundamental way. We guaranteed free breakfast and lunch to every single child in Minnesota.
You know, like, this is the thing, right? Like, we did things to improve your lives. That would be where, like, a lot of politicians would just stop. Because if they actually listed out their accomplishments, they wouldn't seem that impressive. They wouldn't seem very relatable to average working people. But suddenly when you say, hey, we made sure children could eat food, and you're someone who's struggling to put food on the table, that means the world.
That helped a whole lot of school employees, ASPE members, keep their students engaged and keep them in the classroom learning. Today, Minnesota is one of the best states for workers in the country. I'm surrounded by some that aren't, so the Vice President's vision is to take those worker protections to every state in the union. Every state in the union.
And this is also very important. He is not talking about these things from a place of impotence. You know? He is talking about this with the express endorsement of the presidential candidate that he represents. You know? He's out there basically elaborating on what Kamala Harris's policies are going to be. This is something endorsed and signed off on by Kamala Harris. So, like, I don't know, guys. Like, this is we're in a different ball game now. They had us in the first half, you know?
I keep saying this. I know you know it, but I think it keeps us focused. We all understand it in here. You've heard me say this. I know I'm preaching to the choir a little bit today, but the choir needs to sing. The choir needs to sing. And just so you know who's not in the choir, Donald Trump and J.D. Vance, they see the world very differently than we do. The only thing those two guys knows about working people is how to work to take advantage of them. That's what they know about it. Every single chance they've gotten, they've waged war on workers and their ability to collectively bargain to take that away from them. All we're asking for is better wages, better benefits, better lives, and dignity in the work that we do.
Dignity for all working people. Let's go, Tim.
There's a great bill in Congress. Should be the easiest vote you've ever taken. The PRO Act. Make it easier to form a union and bargain. Allow people to have the freedom to make a choice. Allow them to be able to do that. They also oppose the Public Service Freedom to Negotiate Act, which would require states to bargain with their employees. Look, if you're living in a state where you get to do those things, it's one thing. But our family and our neighbors and our fellow Americans are living in states where they don't have that. So
now you have to play the AFSCME commercial.
I will do that after we finish the speech. But thank you for the $5 donut and for being the first person to support stream today. Also, I'll just throw this out there. If we get, let's say, 30 subs, I'll do an outfit change. Huh? How about that? Whoop. Hey, Winby. Also, I think I saw Ms. Milena in chat. Hello to you as well.
When it comes to these so-called right-to-work laws that deprive us of the right to be able to form unions, fund what we need, Trump has said he supports right to work 100%.
Yeah, right to work laws are anti-worker. Just in case you haven't made that connection, it's supposed to be one of those turns of phrases that makes a bad thing sound good, but it's a bad thing. Right to work is bad. Gives all of the power to companies and corporations.
I saw our friend Sean Fain at the UAW had a name for that. He called him a scab, just to be clear. That's not name calling, it's an observation and fact, just to be clear. So,
God, this must burn Trump so bad. Like, I don't think Trump is capable of recovering from this.
you know, you can tell a lot about people in their personal lives. He spent a decade stiffing service workers from dishwashers, waiters, and carpenters on his own properties to enrich himself.
He still hasn't paid some of his contractors. There was a story in like 2020, I think, about how some of the contractors that built the Taj Mahal casino still are owed money by Donald Trump like 30 years later.
President, he cut overtime benefits for millions of workers, and he opposed any effort to raise the minimum wage. That's all you need to know. You don't have to ask twice. We know who they are. A guy who goes to Mar-a-Lago, and this is a direct quote, he sits there and tells his friends, you're rich as hell and we're going to cut your taxes. I believe him when he says that. But he also turns around and tells workers their wages are too high. I keep bringing this up. Who do you know who's asking to cut taxes on billionaires while stiffing working people?
And on that point, just real quick here, there's a clip that is relevant here. That I did not prep, so it might take me a moment. Let's see, it's from like the 90s, I believe. Y'all might have seen it. Let's throw this up. Where is it? Found it.
Same thing with the unions.
That's right.
They get their little 5%. They get another 2%. They get another 3%, 4%. Then all of a sudden they're making more money than the people that own the company. Same thing with the unions.
That's right.
They get their little 5%. They get another 2%. They get another 3%, 4%. Then all of a sudden they're making more money than the people that own the company.
That's who Donald Trump is when it comes to worker rights. And I have to be honest, if you are a worker and you support Donald Trump, you're a sucker. You're a fool. He's taking you for a ride. And I know that that doesn't feel very good to admit, so a lot of people run away from that awareness. But he fundamentally, if you are making less than like $10 million, $100 million a year, he does not care about you or your family. He's willing to tell you anything to try and make you think that he cares, but behind closed doors, he despises you. He thinks that, frankly, you should go die somewhere where it would be convenient for him to be to have it fertilized, you know? Like you should go die in like his rose bushes so his gardener can like fertilize his roses. Like that's fundamentally the kind of attitude Donald Trump has. He only cares about you insofar as you are useful to him with your vote. Once he's elected, you can die for all he cares. And I think that's very much reflected in his economic policy.
I don't know anybody. And I'll tell you what, I think there's a lot of people think that they're on his side or voting for him, that when you put it to them like that, they start thinking things differently. This is where we need to talk to our neighbors. We need to engage. And I'll tell you, his running mate, I don't know if that was a value add to this campaign or not, but he's one of 4 senators, 4, that has never cast a vote on a pro-worker bill in his life. Not once.
The incredible amount of shade that this man is capable of producing is insane to me. Like, he simultaneously is able to like gut punch JD Vance, like I don't know what kind of value return that guy's adding. But then he's able to absolutely demolish him in front of these union workers. Like he's got the calluses on his knuckles here. It's a knockdown, drag out fight in politics, and he's winning.
A stop clock's right twice a day. This guy can't get it right once. Not once for workers. And by the way, these guys are even attacking me for my record of service. And I just want to say, I'm proud to serve my country, and I always will be. With my dad's encouragement, a guy who served in the Army during the Korean War, I signed up for the Army National Guard 2 days after my 17th birthday. I served for the next 24 years for the same reason all my brothers and sisters in uniform do. We love this country. Then in 2005, I felt the call of duty again, this time of being service to my country in the halls of Congress. My students inspired me to run for that office, and I was proud to make it to Washington. I was a member of the Veterans Affairs Committee and a champion of our men and women in uniform. I'm going to say it again as clearly as I can. I am damn proud of my service to this country. And I firmly believe you should never denigrate another person's service record. To anyone brave enough to put on that uniform for our great country, including my opponent, I just have a few simple words. Thank you for your service and sacrifice.
Like, I know that kind of goes counter to the attacking instincts here, but that plays extraordinarily well with middle-of-the-road voters, okay? Like, I like that this guy instinctively knows, hey, this is when you punch, this is when you go high. And he does it extremely well. You know, like, I think that you could maybe I think that you could maybe criticize some people's service records. I think that's fine, but in a speech that you're giving on the campaign trail is not a time to like hem and haw in that way. You know, this type of strong statement plays extremely well. And he knows his audience, man. He knows exactly what to say.
But look,
yeah, Ron DeSantis is exactly who I had in mind, Snuggle Kitten. You know, like, I will criticize that man's service record all day, every day, until the day I die. Mr. got a guy to throw up on him at Guantanamo Bay because he was force-feeding him, like, dietary supplements until he vomited. Yeah. Fuck Ron DeSantis. And fuck his service record.
It's not what they've done that we should be concerned with here today. It's what they're going to do. One of the clear goals of that Project 2025 to-do list is to put the screws to working people, making it harder for us to collectively bargain,
Patrick Lucas,
allowing employers to drastically cut
months.
overtime or even eliminate it. And make no mistake about this, Donald Trump and J.D. Vance want to eliminate AFSCME and all public sector unions altogether.
Absolutely. He is 100% correct.
Hell, they're even going after the 40-hour work
Patrick
week.
Lucas, thank you for gifting a membership as well.
Someone was joking and said, what's next, child labor? Oh, yeah, that's in there too, by the way.
Yep.
Reducing the rules around our children, putting them into dangerous jobs again.
Yeah. Yeah. We've talked about this. They want to put, like, they're saying, oh, well, 16, really, 16-year-olds get so much value out of going to work. We should put 14-year-olds to work. We should put 12-year-olds to work. Punky Gal, thank you for being subscribed for 40 goddamn months. I appreciate it. Thank you for joining me for this incredible journey we've been on together. They want to put children, like, back into the position of putting their tiny hands into heavy machinery because factory workers don't want to actually have specialized tools to fix the machines, or frankly, just don't want to stop the production line long enough to use the proper tools and procedures. And that's pretty abhorrent. That's pretty disgusting. And it really betrays the lack of value Republicans have for the lives of children. And we know this. We know this because, guess what? Under Republican governors that have reinstated right-to-work laws for children, kids have died or been maimed, lost hands, lost limbs. Because that's what happens when you put a child in those environments. And the workplaces might say, oh, well, we're not letting them use the heavy machinery. They're just, they're just up at the cash register. Guess what happens in a workplace? Sometimes you are asked to do things that go beyond what you were initially hired to do. And those workers, when they happen to be children, cannot be properly trained. Their brains are literally not fully formed yet to be able to do the tasks that they are being asked to do. They want to bring us back to the age of company towns, when the robber barons scoured America clean of its resources. They want that again for themselves and their rich friends. And all of us can go die for all they care, as long as it makes them rich.
The folks who came before us spilt blood and treasure and spent their lives working to give us dignity and safety in our workplace, so you can simply do a good day's work and go home to your family safely at night.
Which side are you on?
Project 2025 will take all that away. It'll also repeal what you worked so hard for, the Affordable Care Act, and its protections against pre-existing conditions, and they'll gut Social Security and Medicare. I said this too. Look, I guess you can't blame them if you're billionaires. I don't know, but I'm guessing billionaires aren't waiting for their Social Security check to come in to get by. But I know people who are, like my mom, who depends on her entire retirement on Social Security benefits.
Like, guys, he's one of us. You know, he's a guy who doesn't have millions of dollars in a trust fund somewhere. He's a guy who doesn't have $10 billion invested into, like, a crypto scam, okay? His mom lives off of Social Security. That's the position most of our moms, once we reach a certain age, are in. He's actually of the working class, and I think that that makes a huge difference.
that she earned, by the way, and that we should have every expectation that we're not cutting taxes for the wealthiest while we hurt the most vulnerable amongst us. So be clear.
Incidentally, Donald Trump's record, like, $2 trillion tax cut that mostly went to the wealthy, all of the tax cuts from that went to working class folk, middle class folk, those all dry up this year because those were made to sundown, meaning end. Whereas the tax cuts that went to the wealthiest people, they're permanent.
Trump's playing dumb. Oh, I don't know about 2025.
That's
Some
where
of
the
you heard this say it,
Republicans are.
because I'm not ever closing the yearbook on this. I'm a football coach at heart. And I'll tell you one thing I know for sure is, if you're going to take the time to draw up a playbook, you're damn sure going to use it.
Remember yesterday when someone came in here and was like, he stole Coach Valor by calling himself, by saying other people called him coach, and when really he was like the defensive coordinator or something? Like, God, that was insane. Yeah, you just call all of them coach when you're one of the players.
So don't think that they're not going to use that playbook they drew up, because they're going to.
We're going to be looking at that in a bit.
But I want to be clear. It's your neighbors. It's our friends that have been in this. I'm not talking about them. I'm talking about Trump, Vance, and this group that's around them. Because some of you in here with no or gray hair like me can remember when Republicans actually stood for and talked about freedom. We know they're there. We know those are our relatives. But it turns out that this guy means that freedom should be for the freedom of government to go into your exam room. And
I just want to point out here, another really clever rhetorical thing he's doing here is he is making sure that his audience knows that he is critiquing the politicians, the political Republicans, not your average working person. And I do want to point out that, like, there's a difference between the two. Because often, like, a lot of Republicans on the ground, yeah, they might be bigoted in some ways. But ultimately, at the end of the day, they want to live and let live. And particularly the older guard of Republican that grew up in this kind of, like, don't tread on me for real kind of thing. Like the actual people who are conservative, who are like, I don't want the government messing in my business because I believe in freedom. Like, those people do exist. They just aren't represented by the current Republican Party. And also, they are, frankly, getting radicalized by the current political establishment in the Republican Party. They're being radicalized to worse and worse positions. But what he's doing here that's clever is making sure, you know, people who have moderate Republican friends or family, or who might themselves be that way, understand he's not attacking them. He's attacking the extremists, the wild, insane people who do not care about you, who currently run the Republican Party. And it is, I think, good to make that distinction when you are running to be vice president. It is a good rhetorical move. Coaches even call each other coach. I watched Ted Lasso, I know.
tell you about your choices. You've heard me say it. This is not hard. In Minnesota, we respect our neighbors and we respect their personal choices. Now look, it's not difficult. I might not agree with my neighbor's choices or make the same one. But this country's great because we have a golden rule that makes things work. We mind our own damn business on those things. We mind our own damn business. Why would you think I need your advice to tell me what books I can and cannot read, or when to have a family or how to have a family, or what religion to worship, or how to organize?
This is when he really starts to cook, chat.
You
Buckle
stay in your lane and I'll stay in mine. That's not that difficult. So be clear. You watch our next president as she comes out on stage, and she comes out to a song about freedom. When she's talking about freedom, she means you're free to make your own health care decisions. You don't need us. You don't need us. And as a school teacher, I'll tell you what. Children should be free to go to school without worrying about being shot dead in their classrooms. Education should be a ticket to the middle class, not crippling student loan debt. Here's the thing. We don't have that long to go here, but think about the future that we can create. We know what the past is. We know what these guys are going to do because they wrote it for us. Convenient to them to write it in Project 2025, so we know that. That's not the future we want. We want the future, and here's exactly what Vice President Harris will do when she gets to the White House. As president, Vice President Harris said she will sign the PRO Act and the Public Service Freedom Negotiation Act right into law. Done.
Seize the reins of your destiny.
We will stand together on the fundamental principle to collectively bargain for your own lives and your own jobs.
Let's go.
And we believe in fairness. That's what we believe in. That's why corporations...
Yeah, and that's a really good point, John Bainbridge. Like, his framing around, like, abortion being like... Again, notice, he didn't... I don't think he said the word abortion in there. Because he's talking about more than just abortion. But, like, it's covered by the rhetoric, you know? Framing that issue as big government coming in to, like, nitpick your medical choices... It's a very strong rhetorical position to take in opposition to Republican rhetoric. Can you make some Minnesota-styled socialist slogans? Oh, yeah, you betcha.
Can start paying their fair share, and that's how it works. At the same time, what we did in Minnesota is lower taxes for the working folks, and we have the fairest tax system in the country, and things work out pretty well. We can protect Social Security. And something we did, and I want to thank, I know they're in here, my Minnesotans who are in the House.
That's me. Hi.
It was AFSCME that put into place the most generous paid family and medical leave in the country in Minnesota.
True. True. I voted yesterday.
We're investing in our public schools, and it's... Yeah, I'm a little biased on this one, but I think you're probably with me on this. How about we give our teachers a long overdue raise for the work that they do?
Let's go!
All right, I know
True,
you've heard these speeches, big order, optimistic or whatever. Well, I got to tell you, I will cop to being an eternal optimist. That's me. But I come by it honestly. I supervised the damn high school lunchroom for 20 years. You do not survive that job without being an optimist, I will guarantee you. And I also think you've heard me say this, hope is the most powerful word in the English language. It was so powerful for when my wife and I first had our first child, we named our daughter Hope. But my wife often reminds me, hope is a great word and a beautiful name, but it's not a damn plan. We can't hope that we defeat Donald Trump. We can't hope that we can collectively bargain. We can't hope we protect Social Security. We can't hope that we address climate change. You don't hope to win. You plan, prepare, and work to win.
Goddamn, dude. Spitting fire, man.
Look at this place. This place is filled with people who like hard work. These are people who get up and enjoy hard work and know how to get it done. So what do you think? A room full of 1.4 million AFSCME members, and this room here, how many voters do you think we could turn out in an hour? How many friends can we bring to the polls? We got over 4,000 people in this room. We won states by less than 10,000 votes in some cases. And I don't know about...
He's 100% correct. And this, by the way, is what I've been saying here for a while. The margins of victory in states for elections can sometimes be incredibly small. Small enough to the point where, like, the number of people watching my live stream right now, and I'm not a big streamer, could literally make or break an election. Okay? So when I say, like, hey, go phone bank, go knock on doors, you know, go volunteer in your community to do these things, you can actually make a difference. You have power. You have agency here. So often this electoral system seems so big that, like, how could we possibly make a difference in a country of 300 million people? Well, guess what? Sometimes elections turn on whether or not 10 people show up, on whether or not 100 people show up. And, like, the margins are thin. And it's not enough to just hope that things are going to turn out okay. You actually have to go out there and do the work. You have to go and knock on doors. You have to call. You have to text bank. You have to do whatever it is you are good at in service of that mission. Because those small local races, they turn into larger state races, they turn into national races, and if no one turns up to do the work doesn't get done. It's not enough to hope.
You, and I know it, this is going to be a close, tough race. It is going to be a tough one. But if each of us does an extra shift, an extra hour, a little bit more, we get to wake up on that morning after the election and know that the work we did transformed the lives for millions, transformed generations, impacted the world. Ask me.
Carry that way.
That's how it happens. That's how it happens. That's a plan. That's how the hope turns into the reality, turns into improved lives. It's just like that. We organize, we donate, we volunteer. Look, I've been around you people. I know the jobs you do. I know what this president does, because I thought you had to register to vote in Minnesota. You were out there so much for me because you were living there. You turn elections. You turn lives. You negotiate contracts. You press legislatures to do the right thing. We know how to do this. We've got 84 days to take control of our own destiny. 84 damn days. And I've said this, you hear me say this. That's easy. We'll sleep when we're dead. We'll do the work now. We'll do the work now.
Hell yeah, let's go.
And you do it for the most beautiful and selfless reason, because you believe in the very soul of your being that you believe in the promise of what America can be. You believe we can all enter the middle class. You believe we can all have dignity. You believe we can all thrive. But you know what? We got to fight. Because as the next president of the United States says to me often, when we fight, we win. When we fight, we win. When we fight, thank you. Ask me.
God. He's so good at this. Was he about to tear up up there? Yep. Because he believes in what he's saying. This isn't a game to him. A lot of politicians treat politics, treat speech making as a game to flatter their own egos. You know, that's how they treat it. They treat it as like a formality for them to be in their elite social clubs, to be invited to the chicest martini parties. or whatever they do. I don't know. I'm pretty sure they're not called martini parties. But that being said, like, yes, Melanie, I'm a member of the MO ACLU, and we lobbied at Jeff City to get the abortion ballot on the 2024 general election ballot, and your community did that. Yeah, because sometimes it just takes a group of people willing to go and say, hey, we care about this. You know? It's a new day, because we're talking about going beyond hope. And I like that. I like that because for a long time, all we had was hope that things might get better in the future. And now it finally seems like at least some people in the Democratic Party are rolling up their sleeves to actually get to work, to actually pound the pavement, to actually put on their walking shoes, walk the walk, knock doors, call people, talk, to get out there, to make a difference. And not just like in a hollow, performative sense of making a difference, but actually making sure kids get things like time to play after school instead of being forced to go to work, food in their tummies so that they can learn, you know? That isn't being gate-kept behind money. The right to negotiate with their own companies. Basic human dignity, man. And for a long time, what was sold to us by the Democratic establishment was that, no, you don't get that. You do not get concrete change. What you get is the maintenance of the status quo. What you get is the shadow of hope. What you get is, you know, the shadow of hope with the promise of change. But now Tim Walz is on this stage, and he's saying, change is here. We need to do the work of change ourselves. That isn't some nebulous thing that is done by other people somewhere else. The change is done by us. And it's time to get to work. We need plans and we need action. And now is the time for both. And I think we are going to see some things change very soon here. I would argue we are already seeing things change quite intensely. And I, for one, am filled with a fire to see that through. So I hope some of y'all will join me. Oof. All right. Chat. If you are having a good time here, please hit the follow button on Twitch, hit the subscribe button on YouTube, like the YouTube stream. Let's fucking go, folks. And consider dropping those subs, donos, etc. And yes, well, let's watch this. Let's watch this advertisement.
Hey, on your way to work tomorrow, instead of sitting around with your finger up your ass, look around. There's a union out there called AFSCME, and they're busting their balls for you doing a lot of shit work you take for granted. For example, we pick up your fucking garbage. We got broads out there who keep your kids from getting run over by some hard-on. We plug up the holes in the road so you don't fuck up your car. And we push around a lot of little old ladies from Florida. We're out there zapping rats and roaches and making sure your kids don't drink piss from no fucking water fountains. We're fucking AFSCME. Amalgamated Federalization. Hey, I don't know what the fuck it means. All I know is we're hard-working, tax-paying people like you, and we don't take shit from nobody. You got that, asshole? Ask me. The fucking union that works for you.
You got that, asshole? Oh, God. I don't think that was a real ad, guys. This is part of a vintage joke reel from a local television station. This never aired, of course. It was recorded after the normal track was done and passed around internally by way of VHS tape. Nice. Some classic memes. Some classic memes. I choose to believe it was real. I mean, I guess it was real. It just was never televised.